What up, y'all? This your boy Gerald. It is Memorial Day. Excuse me. Labor Day. See how a brother do? Because every day, to me, is a holiday because you're alive. That's right. You didn't have to wake up this morning. But yeah, it's the simple things we overlook. You didn't have to open your eyes this morning, but we overlook those things. You didn't have to be where you are. But see, I'm not going to sit up here and act like life is peaceful. Can it be? You're damn right it can. But what a lot of times what people do, they never take accountability of where and how they're placed. Did you hear what I'm saying? We always want to overlook our placement, our role, and what makes our reality. Our reality does not choose us. We manifest it. That's right. Those precious words that come from that beautiful mind, that comes from that beautiful lips, you speak it into existence, guess what? If it's not blessed, it makes your reality. It's a blessing or a lesson. I ain't got to tell you that. You're living it. So how y'all doing, y'all? I hope your weekend was peaceful. I hope that it was a reflection of possibly some of the things that you want to accomplish. Maybe this is the time that you decided to be still, to do nothing, to just be you, which is what you should have been all along because, see, God made you priceless. He made you perfect. And as you wake up, go through your day, you know that anguish, that angst you're feeling, that conflict you might be dealing with, just like right here, I'm a step ahead. That's that real you. That's that bless you. It's trying to get you to come back home. See, the end goal, y'all, is your legacy. The interim is your testimony. But guess what? It's your story. You have to live it. It was always written. It was already, look here. Y'all know my soup coolers are getting in the way. That's why I slip over my words. I'm not going to throw that disclaimer out. I'm just going to allow God to use me as the vessel, a conduit, because I am a spiritual being just like you. And for some reason, well, you already know there's a spiritual war. It's always been a spiritual war since you opened your eyes. And there are, demons got to stay employed, y'all. You do understand that, right? Because the devil knows your legs. He already knows who you're destined to be. But you know what I have a problem with? I have a problem with, and y'all might have seen this, you may come in contact with someone that you're related to by blood or bone, or someone that you may know by association. And right off the bat, you naturally can see the God-given talents. You see it. But you're saddened because these make up our strengths, as well as identify our weaknesses, and they don't tap into it. Who am I talking to? You know somebody right now, if they would just see their worth, it would elevate them to where they should be in this world. You see that opportunity that comes natural to them that you may would have to do the extra work just to make the menial, just to make the requirement. They do it in a breath. I'm a firm believer, y'all, that God gives everyone spiritual gifts, natural talents. Don't worry about the wordplay. It all means the same. You were blessed. And those tools are going to be the indicators, or these are going to be the things that are going to help identify your purpose. You don't think you was brought on this planet just to eat, breathe this precious air, no matter if it's polluted, and just reproduce? You think that was your only job? Sorry, that's not the case. And to validate what I just said, look at that last disappointment you just went through or in. But let me let you know something about that disappointment that you're in right now. Yeah, doesn't matter how hard you try to save face, because the people that are in your circle will not be there in the end. I don't have to remind you that, because they've shown you through their behavior that when it comes to self-worth, it is not based off of theirs. And that is why far too many times you've had to, did I hear right? Did I see that? Did that just occur? No, all that occurred. Why? It was meant for you to see it. God has already told us. He's not going to give you nothing you can't withstand. Therefore, guess what? Life has always been progressive. But the kicker is, will you progress? Most people won't. Most people will find means to deflect. They choose to stay in their denial, which is easy when you won't speak your truth. I ain't got to tell you that. You got all that energy in your spirit, and you're saying to yourself, you know what? I need to address this. And guess what happens? God does that. All right. There's your opportunity. What do? Mum's the word. You just bury it. Don't you realize when you bury it, you're taking time away from your mortality? Because what ends up happening is it becomes toxic. Why? Because you have willfully allowed your emotions to become stagnant. You know what happens to stagnant emotions? I don't have to tell some of you, especially you women, my queens. You already know. You become numb. Some call it frozen. Some know it as emotionally checking out. And the question is why? The answer is real simple. Because people don't want to do the work. This is no shade on you as a person. Because guess what? I don't have to live your life. But would I be wrong or remiss not for you to have the life that you rightfully deserve? Would I be wrong, or would I have a position that is so far-fetched that, nah, it's not realistic, Gerald? It's unrealistic for you to want the best for me, Gerald. It's unrealistic for you to pray for us to make it another day. Each one teach one, right? What is knowledge? Not shared. I'll tell you what it is. It's a wasted blessing. Because everything has a time signature. Everything. Everything has a rhythm. Because you'll come to understand time and rhythm is one and the same. Who am I talking to? But see, we get so distracted, some by choice, some blatantly deliberate, and some because you don't have the fortitude to claim it. And I understand because a lot of that, to understand what you need to do now, you have to admit to yourself and look over your shoulder. You got to look back there because everything you've done to this point is progressive. For example, alcoholic doesn't wake up one morning and say, "Hey, I'm an alcoholic." No, it's progressive. A person that's suffering from an addiction doesn't wake up and say, "Hey, I'm an addict. Congratulations." It's progressive. That's why we have so many people now. This is the first time in our society where our predecessors, our younger generation, are ultra sexual than the present generation. That's right. That's right, moms, dads. Yes. You see, Junior, he's going to always be your baby. But little do you know, Junior's exploring. He's doing things that you have only thought about. He's living it. Oh, yes, little Sarah, she's got the image of your princess, but little do you know, when she walks out of your door, she's getting it in. Why? Because, see, they're doing the same things you were doing. When, and see, and here's the ironic part, because a lot of a lot of the younger generation, there's that divide. They think that what is new is unrelatable to their elders, but they fail to realize that at one time we were you. We did more with less. But see, now we live in a technological world where that aspect has been to the point of people worshiping than looking at it for what it is, a tool. Does it surprise you why pedophilia is on the rise? Well, actually, it has never declined because it's always been there. And if it had not been so evident, you wouldn't have reporters like Chris Hansen. I know y'all seen the trailer. He's got another. He's coming back out. Come on now. He wouldn't have a job. He found his niche to exploit. But look what's really going on. I highly recommend for those who have had the blessing to be called parents. You need to look at those shows because those shows are going to give you insight. The days of the greasy tank top wearing fat guy sitting behind the monitor with a profile that is not of him, that's changed because you've got teenagers that are doing the same thing. Don't Some know that willingly, some do not, but it's progressive. And when you really think about it, that's where catfishing really came about. When you think about it, and derived from the keystrokes of a predator. I can't stress it, my parents. It is time that you be just that. Stop worrying about being their best friend. Stop worrying about it. You be the parent first. Your greatest responsibility is to protect them from themselves. Because if you don't, what will end up happening is you will end up having to make that drive to identify your extension that no longer exists. I ain't got to tell you that. Look on your news every day. There's always a distraught mom on a corner, on a town near you, in a county near you, in a city near you, in a state near you. This plays out every day. She's always distraught. She always has the same story. That's not my baby. He was a good kid. She was a good kid. Well, maybe that was the illusion that you held on to. But when your child stepped into the world, the mask came off. Now, granted, all kids, for the most part, start off the same way, innocent. But through time, through the effects of their environments, and those who are the most influential in their lives, that's where they gain their knowledge. Their first teachers are you, my parents. That's right, my moms. You got a daughter. She's watching everything you do because you are her teacher. So you got Uncle Larry and Uncle Steve, and you're carrying yourself less than. Well, guess what? She's going to take it to the next level, new and improved, because she is a new, improved version of you. That's right, my fathers. If your son is watching you carrying off in a certain way, he's going to run with it. You might as well go ahead and turn around and put the baton, which is time, in his hand. And he's going to run with it. He's going to do things that you couldn't do. But here's where the pain comes in. These are all things that you thought about in your mind, being manifested in their actions. Who am I talking to? I wouldn't wish that on nobody, because guess what? There's somebody's baby sitting in a cell somewhere. There's somebody's baby, unfortunately, being buried. But nobody takes into consideration that every time that a child's life is ended, you're going against divine order. Because our children are supposed to bury us, not us bury them. Who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? So I mentioned yesterday about 2017. I really believe right now there's such a thirst for knowledge and clarity that you got people coming out the woodworks and they're just talking and saying nothing. There's so much negative energy socially. First of all, here's the thing that really that I'm surprised nobody has picked up on. You can't have unification if you're divided. But no one's taking account that as long as we stay divided, the devil's winning. Nobody's taking that into account. While you worried about what they doing, why aren't you worrying about what you need to do? What about that? Because it's too hard to do, huh? And that's why everybody always has something to say. But when we want to look at you, how about look at that heart? Oh no, you shut down and you hold on to your loyalty with your pain, because you know that if you finally accept your role in your life, because see, you got to live it. Nobody's living your life. Doesn't matter if they're stuck with you like glue. It's still your life. Why? Because those are your emotions. Those are your feelings. You feel pain. So that's why I do not see the correlations of why, where you are, is a direct effect of the people who are also there, or those lack thereof. Why haven't you seen what it equates? Have you not seen the commonality in that? And it's got you feeling a certain kind of way now and then. Because you have to admit to yourself, none of that's would have took place unless you signed off on it in some way. You may not have said verbally, yes, I agree with this. I'm okay with this. But you did. You did. You said you signed off with it with your spirit, and it was in your heart. That's what God looks at. It is also the underlining example of what faith is about. Doing things without sight. Why? Because God searches and knows. He knows you. He created you. Why won't you? Why are you giving props to people that hurt you? Who am I talking to? Are you afraid to walk by yourself? Or have you or is it one of those things that you have allowed yourself to convince yourself that you matter not? Don't you know these are all tricks and tools by the Jezebel spirit? Queens, let me tell you, because I love you. I'm going to tell you some truth. Until you make a conscious decision to own every action that you've done, especially my single moms, you're going to live by yourself. Did you hear that? Until you make a conscious decision to admit to yourself, yeah, you know those secrets you've been holding on to? Yeah, I know I'm talking to somebody now. Yeah, you know that secret that if anybody found out, they look at you, they would look at you, oh, they would feel a certain kind of way. Well, guess what? Those secrets is what's keeping you hostage from where you needed to be all along. That's why some of y'all may be feeling this way. You don't even want to see anything remotely that has love in it because you have not had it. So when you look at your life, it's really been based off of a primal need. Really, it's not a need, it's a want. That's why when I hear, I just had an epiphany just now. You know what I've never heard? I've never heard a man say, I don't need a woman. But you hear plenty of women say, I don't need a man. But here's what you don't admit. The same women that say they don't need a man are the same women that are broken. Because guess what? You're not independent like you think. We are interdependent with each other. That's why it's called mankind. And I know some people feel a certain kind of way and like, why is it called mankind? Because guess what? Who did God create first? He created Adam. Then Eve. And Eve was an extension of Adam. And Adam was made in the image of who? God. Come on now. That's like putting the cart in front of the horse. So every time that you go against the grain, why do you actually think that you proverbially are saying, I'd rather go with the shortcut than the investment? Come on. Who taught you that? Or better yet, maybe if you just take a step back, maybe the person that inspired you was the same person that was deceiving you all along. You ever thought about that? It's progressive. Look at your connections. Look at your family structure. Go backwards. Now, no, this is not a moment for you to turn around and say, well, that's why I'm not feeling my mom, or I don't have a relationship with my dad. Because guess what? Your mother and your father were the physical conduit to bring you to this earthly realm. You were already a spiritual being before you were in the flesh. How do you think that you got your name? You ever thought about that? I know from the simplistic level, you said, well, my dad came up with this name and he made it so. Well, guess what? Before any action, there must be a pattern. And before any pattern, it starts off as a thought. And before any thought, it's a word. So where did the word come from? Who placed it there? You ever thought about that? I know I'm talking to somebody. And that's exactly why you are seeing what you are seeing. Oh, yes. Generational curses are real, y'all. You know why they play out? Because whatever that decision that was made. See, listen, God is a jealous and loving God. You do understand it, right? But even God gets tired. Yeah, he can say, well, you know what? Bump you don't exist. You fall dead right there. He could do that. But because he made you perfect, you know what he did? He said, okay, since you think you're so independent, since you think you don't need me, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of your way. Let's see how that work out. Because sooner or later, you're going to call on me. You're going to call on me on the midnight hour. You're going to call on me during the day. You're going to call on me to the point you're going to even question your mortality. Who am I talking to? You know why you do that? You know why you're doing that? Because your friends ain't your friends, and that is painful because you have to admit to yourself you let them in. Who am I talking to now? But I got to congratulate you too, because some of y'all are taking accountability for your life. And that's why you're feeling that burden. You're feeling a certain kind of way and you want to make things right. And you know, until you make those things right, you can't go forth. You are feeling like you are doing time in your mind. It's no different than a plane that's supposed to land and it's just circling. And that's what some of y'all feeling that right now. You're just on approach. You know what you need to do. You want to get ahead. It's right there, but you see the blessing, but you can't get to it. You know what's stopping you? Because you still have in your spirit, you want to do things your way. Who am I talking to? You want to do things your way. You think you're smarter than God. How disrespectful is that? Instead of learning from the experiences that sometimes God will take you and lean you so close to the dilemma that it'll make you feel like you in it. You know why he does that? To show you where you do not belong. Who am I talking to? Life was all good when you were doing that. But the moment that you felt brand new, what happened? And you're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? Why am I going through this? I don't deserve this. And you see it. And no matter how much you try to scratch and scrape to get from there, you can't. It's like you're spinning on ball tires. Why? Because God gets tired. He gets tired. He may also do this too. There may be someone that is connected to you by spirit, and they have an influence on you. And until you admit it to yourself that this person does not have your best interest, you cannot go forth, because the blessing that is intended, they don't deserve to have access to see it. That's what opportunists do all the time, y'all. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Who am I talking to? Your life was straight. You was doing it until that one fateful day you made that decision. And you do angels, you know angels exist too, right? You do know they do. And demons are real. And you've had validation after validation after validation, to the point you thought that you were losing your mind because you turned the radio on. You were hearing certain songs, and the songs were talking to you. They were talking to your spirit. You may have spoken indirectly from your heart. You may have just kind of mumbled something out like, well, you know, I wish this, if I only, give me a sign. Somebody be sarcastic. Well, if you want me to do this, Lord, why don't you just give me a sign? Turn that radio on. Or you turn that TV on. Or you might be in passing, out and about, and you hear a conversation shared by other people, but you hear it crystal clear. Don't you realize God will use anything to get to your spirit? He ultimately has the keys to your life because he created it. But you let your pride, you let your environment, you let your ego keep you where you are. And the one thing I want to convey to somebody right now, because I know in the intended time and moment, you're going to find this video. And it's okay to sit down. Probably sitting on your bed, got the laptop right in between your legs and you're looking at it. You're hearing my voice. I want you to know something. Everything that's found in your heart will play out. But do not get caught up with your environment per se. And what I mean by that is, you may be going through a spiritual storm right now. Things are not comfortable. Things are very hard. Things are making you take account of what is going on. So on a heart level that you're more critical for yourself. Let me just reassure you this. The reality that you have right now, it is only for a season. But here's the kicker. We don't dictate the season. He does. So if you want change, change your heart. And the only way you can do that, y'all, the only way is you got to get real with yourself. That's what keeping it real is. Because you'll never have a rep when it comes to God. You won't. You're his child. Let that sink in. You think you're supposed to be struggling with your finances right now? You think you're supposed to be at odds with your children right now? You over here scratching your head because your relationship was what was found in Harlequin books, and all of a sudden now it's the new nightmare. You know why? because you willfully detached yourself from the person that's on the outside feeling the experience compared to the person that you see in the mirror every day. See, that's who you owe it to. That's the person you answer to, not the person you laying in that bed, not that person that you share camaraderie with. Some of y'all work at jobs that you hate. But here's the contradiction of that. You're so vocal about you hate your job, but yet you won't do anything to change it. Why is that? I'm going to tell you why. Because some people are addicted to drama. I ain't got to tell you that. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Because it gives a certain response emotionally. And if it's not checked, if you don't have that in check, guess what? It will turn you out. That's why you see it out there every day. You got that woman. You got that woman. She got to talk to the top of her lungs for people to take her serious. But little do you know, her behavior is really screaming, hey, I need validation. I don't feel emotionally safe. Somebody love me. I feel unsafe. That's what it means. But look what society does in returns. It promotes it. Why? Because as long as you unbalanced, you're going to make impulsive decisions. As long as you make impulsive decisions, you're going to spend money that you shouldn't. Who am I talking to? Somebody looking at somebody saying, he talking about you. We never needed this. Now you're realizing you're doing the math, or the math is doing you because you need the money, but you got that to show for it, which really the moment you do understand anytime that you pull your money out, no matter what it is, the moment that, see, nothing has value unless you possess it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Nothing has value until you decide to possess it. Your greatest asset or commodity is your time. So if you're giving time to the things that do not empower you, question to you is this: why are you there? Why do you give it access? Is it because of ego? Because as long as you choose your ego will leave you distraught, displaced, and broke. Who am I talking to? You just spent them $800 on a pair of shoes that costs only $30 to make. What's the difference from an $800 pair of shoes and a pair that costs $50? They use the same material. They put the same time. But here's the kicker. If I'm going to spend $800, I'm saying this hypothetically because I'll never do that. I know you shouldn't say never, but I'm telling you, that's not good business. But if I'm going to spend a significant amount of money on something, guess what? It better have my name on it. You understand? So then it's yours. But here's another thing, Kings. The sooner you learn this, the sooner it'll make a difference in your life. Real men do not wear their wealth. They invest it. Did you hear what I said? Real men do not wear their wealth. They invest it. But if you're not taught basic business 101, guess what? You'll be a slave to consumerism. So guess what? You're making them rich. You're putting their children through the colleges that they choose. You're preparing their retirement or their golden parachute. You realize how much money that the minority community puts out every year? Just retail, it's well over $1 billion. Some say it's close to almost 500 billion. It's very, very high. But the ironic thing about it is the average minority doesn't even have $2,000 in the bank. So does it surprise you why you see those who are deemed non-minority? And listen, and I don't even like using the word hate. I despise when I hear, because it's so primitive. We're still caught up on this, right? Caught on this. That's why it's so important. If you do anything, your greatest research is going to be about you. But to know your future, you must study your past. But see, as long as we killing each other on the street, guess what? The people that don't give a damn about you, and let's not get this twisted, because we easily want to fall in the trick bag of saying, well, it's the white guy. It's the white girl. And this is not to prop them, it's to bring clarity to you. Why would you give someone an opportunity that was deemed yours to begin with? Huh? You understand what I'm saying? Why are you giving them? But here's the thing that I find is so ironic. We want to pick and choose our struggles. We want to combat hate. You can't combat hate until you take the hate that's found in you. You can't combat racism until you go to the root of it. I spoke on this yesterday. We the first ones to say, they the oppressors, they the oppressors, they. Let me tell you something. Sooner or later, you're going to see this in your lifetime, and you're going to be really shook because, first of all, half the information that's put out there in the world is deliberately there to distract you from the truth. But you'll also come to understand this. Sometimes they take things and put it and hide it in plain sight. They'll put it right in front of you. You don't even know it. But if you did the research, you'll understand why people do what they do. Here's a prime example, and I'm going to go to my point. How many of y'all remember seeing the movie Planet of the Apes? Now, you had the Mark Wahlberg version, and then you had the initial one that was done by Charlton Heston, right? Okay. Well, do you remember the scene, for those who saw the original, when he made a break for it and he made it back to the beach and he realized that he was where he thought he was, was he realized he was still there. He was in the States, he was in New York, because there was an image of the face of the Statue of Liberty. But instead of the Statue of Liberty having a woman's face, it had an image of an ape. Now, we could easily play the race card and say, well, they made that movie as a psyop because, yeah, it's no secret that those that had influence on how the world would function, not only on an economic level, but a social level. For those who know the history of the Statue of Liberty, do you know the history of it? Some of us only know that, yes, it was a gift from France. And to show solidarity and liberty. But a lot of people just leave it there. That's the generic narrative. But if you do a little digging and study about the Statue of Liberty, you'll come to understand this too. The original image of the Statue of Liberty was of a black woman, where she has the torch as she's the gateway to the West. The original was, you see the chains, because she was a slave. So it kind of ties in with what's going on, home of the free, home of the brave, but really what you're saying is home of the oppressed, home of the slave. It is what it is. Because your greatest oppression, they've used that narrative for generations. They've used it because they know, and I'm talking about the people that look just like you. Don't get it twisted. Don't think because of the fact that you're melanated just like me, that there are not people that are melanated that look at you as an obstruction. You don't believe me? Why do they got them Georgia court? Why do you think they got them Georgia Guidestones down there? There are those people that don't want you here. Here's my point. The narrative of the Statue of Liberty was also kind of played out in the Planets of Apes. You had those who, you got to look at who was doing who made the movie and what socially was going on at that time. So you can imagine there were some backroom conversations and dialogues, exactly how they felt and how they saw us. And a lot were bold and brazen. They would say, well, they monkeys. They act like apes. They're uncivilized. Do you see the correlation yet? Is the light bulb going off yet? But here's the kicker. Nobody dictates your behavior but you. So what they were showing you in that movie, in that scene, when he looked and saw that the Statue of Liberty was there, but it had a primate's face, we could have looked at that as what he was saying, that the rest of the world acknowledges the original man. Because let's go back. Even Adolf Hitler acknowledged that. For those who are reading, the reading is your thing. Keep feeding that brain. But and I was very surprised when I stumbled on this too. I gotta give props where props are due. There's this brother out here on YouTube called the Relevant Nabi, and his whole platform is about the disillusion and separation of the male female narrative and how it affects us today, especially in the Black community. Why there's so much turmoil going on? Why? You know, and he did a video about it, and I started doing some digging about it, and yes, and Adolf Hitler's biography, Mein Kampf, he states that he identified who the true children of Israel were. It wasn't the Jewish, as we know. He says it in paraphrase. They are deemed the jewels. They're deemed his jewels. His jewels, like the stars, are in the heavens. But until they know who they truly are and until they truly know who they are, will they forever be lost. He was talking about the slaves. He was talking about, and that's why when you look in the world, what do you see? You see so many biracial, melanated people. Don't get caught up on a label. Listen, and what it boils down to is this. Just like your fingers to your hand. See this? That is also the making of our melanin. The 5 shades of brown. From the darkest to the lightest. There are 5 shades. And what happens when you have no melanin? Well, we all have melanin, but you constantly do it. You go from one contrast to the other. Guess what happens? You get a Caucasian. And a lot of people don't want to admit that, but it's the truth. And I'm going to find, there's a website out here that talks about it and has imagery of the different African cultures, you know, and you look at their structures and you can see, well, that's why he looks Asian. You can see where the Latin influence is. Well, first of all, when you use the term Latin, that's a culture, that's an experience, that's how they talked. So does it kind of surprise you when we throw in the Tower of Babel? What happened? Man wanted to show his teeth. Man wanted to reach the heavens and elevate him as such. I told you, he's a jealous but loving God. But you know what? Sometimes God will pop his collar. Oh, for real? You think you showing oh, really? You spreading your nose? Really? You think okay, this is what we gonna do. Bam. What happened? Everybody that was there, the different languages, they couldn't communicate. So what do you think will happen out of that? Natural migration. If I can't talk to you, I'm going to go seek somewhere and find refuge until someone does. That's where the languages and dialects came from for the world. I ain't got that, and I think that's one of the reasons why you have a lot of these millennials doing this. Gerald, the earth ain't round. It's flat. For real? What's your theory? We never saw the other side of the moon. It's flat. Okay. Now, I will admit, I will agree to one thing. I don't agree with the flat earth theory at all. I don't. And that's because no one has proven thus far. But I will say this, just from those who remember basic geography, when you looked at the map of the world and you had the 2D imagery, well, due to natural the shifts of the continental plates, if they never occurred, all the continents would fit. They would fit like a puzzle. That's why you got areas where, I mentioned it before, you got areas where there were known inhabitants and not a trace is there, just the remnants of they were there. I think it's Malaysia, is it Singapore or Malaysia, that they actually have old kingdoms that are submerged under vast, I want to say that ocean is under the ocean, and you can see it like, well, how's that possible? Because at one time the continental plates shifted and it sunk. Same effect in Ireland. I think it's in Scotland. Same thing occurred. Kind of goes back to that joke. I'm gonna paraphrase it. There was a man walking in a field, and as he looked across the field, he saw all these beautiful flowers. He continued to walk across the field, and he saw a valley. As he went down the valley to get closer to this field of flowers and embrace their fragrance, he noticed that as the valley depth, there was a high point. In the high point, he sat down and surveyed everything that he saw that was made beautiful. All of a sudden, water came in, and it kept coming. He didn't have any worries about it, and he sat there because he was at a high elevation. Then he realized that it was too deep for him to walk, and it was too deep for him to swim, and he knew that his mortality was going to be challenged. All of a sudden, he sees somebody come by on one of them Sea-Doos, and the guy gets on and says, the guy comes by and says, hey, get on the back. I'll take you to higher ground. He said, no, I prayed on it. God's got me. The guy in the Sea-Doo rolls on. The water keeps rising. Next thing you know, you see another person with a canoe. Said, hey, get on. I'll take you to higher land. He said, nope, God's got me. I done prayed on it. The guy in the canoe shakes his head, goes on. All of a sudden, a helicopter comes out of nowhere, sees him, throws the rope down, and says, grab the rope, we'll take you to higher ground. The guy looks up and says, nope, I'm okay, I prayed on it. With reluctancy, the helicopter just flew off. That man drowned. The man is in front of the pearly gates, and there is Peter. And he's looking around, and he says, Peter, why am I here? I prayed God that he would spare my life. And Peter looked at him and said, well, what do you think the Sea-Doo was? What do you think the canoe was? And what do you think that helicopter was? Those were your blessings. The point of the matter is, If you allow your morals to be compromised by your common sense, you will never end up where you intended to be. So when I think about it, when you look at the map of the world and spread out, you can see where the continents would naturally fit if they were one landmass. So I think that may be one of the theories of why they say, "Where's a flat Earth?" No, it ain't. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. But then you got a lot of people that are making money off these theories too, and you got a lot of people that want to keep you confused. Because as long as you stay confused, you'll never be able to get ahead in life. And the only way you're gonna get ahead in life is you got to be honest with yourself. The real question you need to ask yourself is this: why you don't deserve it? Maybe there might be some of y'all that have done the work economically, and from the outside, you got it going on, but inside you are in turmoil. You want nothing more than to have peace of mind. You would, because you already know that, guess what? Materialism is exactly what it is, because you can't take it with you. But you can't put a price on peace of mind. That is the real reason and true definition of what being free is. See, when you are at peace with yourself, guess what happens, women? That's where that glow comes from. Yeah, that glow, because that's love. That's love for yourself. You can't have love for yourself if you think that it's based off of shallowness or conceit, because conceit and shallow always gives nothing but insecurity and doubt. And what does that give? Delay and distraction. And all that does is open up a door for the devil to set you down. That's not your story, never will be. But you have to have the courage to give yourself what it needed the whole lot. Because you got to understand something now. I see this play out, and some of y'all, not all, think that validation is based off the opinions of those you keep company with. But you never take in context that they don't live your life. They only see snapshots of it. So why do you take so much weight in the opinions of others than what is found inside you first? That's why you always hear people say, follow your gut instinct. That's just nothing but another reference of respect your discernment. And you can do that because you're not dead. That's why you hear people say, if it don't kill you, it make you strong. But if you're not willing to listen to it, what do you got to lose? I tell you, your time, your experience. You wasn't born on this planet to live the life of the emotional slave, y'all. You think life as you know it is all it's going to be because you were her? You were him? Come on now. We are what we attract. You understand that, right? That's why it does not benefit you to hold on to your secrets. Your secrets are what's keeping you back from where you should have been all along. And I got a feeling somebody is feeling a certain kind of way because you're tired of the pain. And you've been wrestling with this for years. And it keeps bubbling up like cream does to the top. It keeps bubbling up. And what do? You try to shake the scene like you're playing emotional chess. But guess what? All you're doing is playing yourself. And it ain't no worse than for someone to be in emotional turmoil, emotional pain, right? And the person that was the cause will never know what that feels like. They're nowhere in the environment. And you sitting over there feeling like a bump on a log, unable to move. You know why? Because your spirits are tied together. And I know this is gonna shake somebody too. You know them aches and pains you feeling right now? Those ain't yours. Those are them. They going through it. Mm-hmm. And depending on how strong that spiritual connection is, you can also tell when they sick. Or better yet, you can tell when they're being intimate. Who am I talking to? No, you ain't crazy. That's God just letting you see what you wanted to see. Sometimes it can be painful. But see, that pain should be a motivator to bring out the best you, the authentic you, the true you. Real recognizes real. That's why they're not in your life now, because they did not want to invest in the real you. They only wanted to take advantage of the opportunity that you did not see. But that's okay, because guess what? All things done in the dark come to the light. All things broken can be made new. And all things that are needed to be healed can heal the moment that you decide to have that conversation with God and love yourself. You have a blessed weekend, y'all. You're worth it. Bye-bye.